Let's get into map number 2.
And here we are on Neoplanet S, spawning in the bottom left position as the red Zerg player. From Evil Geniuses, it is Jaedong! Can't be too happy with dropping the first map here in this finals. He did say he was going to win. He's looking forward to starting his reign of terror. But this guy's in the way, spawning in the top right position as the blue Protoss player is actually sporting that light decal former North American team he was on. It is from MY Insanities. It is Stardust.
All right, so just to remind you guys once again, this is a best of 5. Stardust has opened up with the first victory in his favor. He now needs to win the next 2 if he wants to 3-0 this, and we'll see how that plays out. Remember, it's the first player to get 3 wins, not necessarily in a row, but 3 wins in total. Currently, Stardust 1-0 over the Evil Geniuses superstar, Jaedong.
Now, one thing I do want to bring in, and as far as mentality goes between these players, Jaedong obviously came into this match feeling confident. You could almost say that even losing that first map wouldn't throw him off too much. He picked a bit of a gambling build there, going for that super fast speed. He hadn't really scouted enough to be able to say that it was definitely going to work. So as far as that strategy goes, his mindset could still be very fresh for this game.
And when it comes to playing a best of 5, there's a lot of different styles to play it. Do you open up aggressive at the start of the series? Do you go ahead and take it slower and change the rhythm of your play throughout the series? As you can see on screen, both players playing incredibly fast. Both of these players actually go up to incredible speeds while playing. 200, 300, even 400 actions per minute in the heat of the battle in a Starcraft 2 game.
And that's, that speed, that intensity really shows when you get into these do-or-die situations. He is going to open up with this Forge now, getting this gateway. And as far as the mindset for Stardust goes, I think when you do take that first map, playing aggressively, you can get into a situation where you start to snowball that aggression a little bit. Still with that Nexus first play, though, I feel like Stardust is feeling super confident, and we could see another aggressive play.
On this map, Neoplanet S, as you mentioned earlier, it's a very small 2-player map. The distances between the bases are not that far away from each other. So if we were to see, as you can see, this is the mini-map just enlarged. The Overlord's getting across the map. There's the Stardust at the top right, Jaedong on the bottom left. The distance is not that far. So if we were to see Stardust do something aggressive, he doesn't really have to travel that far. And what I think we're going to see in this game is Stardust, earlier on in this tournament, brought out a new kind of build that not too many people have seen, involving a timing attack revolving around +2 and +1. +2 attack, that is, and +1 armor. A lot of units hitting around the 12-minute mark, I think it was, with lots of power behind it. We saw players die to it instantly.
He dismantled Hyun, actually, quite expertly, and it was the force field. He picks a build that relies more on his control, and that's one of the powers of this. It's not that easy to counter the style that he chooses because his force fields are so damn good, you can't just avoid them. You have to deal with them, or you have to give up your bases, and right now, Stardust feeling so confident, I wouldn't be surprised if this is even how he plowed through Violet. He's just going so strong in this tournament with this build.
Well, I'm just looking on the natural of Stardust. He's chrono boosting his Warp Gate research. And again, another chrono boost into the Warp Gate research, which is speeding up that research. He's only on 2 gases, and look, in the main simulator, it's a fake. There's nothing mining from it. This means that his mineral count's a lot higher because he's not focusing on gas. Another chrono boost in the Southern X core. What we're going to see now is a flurry of gateways coming in, and he's going to go for a big attack early. It's not going to be the build I described earlier, but here are the gateways coming down. Jaedong has an Overlord slightly west. If he's to spot this, he will have the heads up necessary to defend against it. But if he doesn't see it coming, how can he make the defense? But on the right-hand side down here, a probe is making its way. An Overlord, is it going to spot the pylon? Is it going to see the probe building the pylon where the reinforcements are going to come from?
This pylon's so important. Oh, he's going to build it right in the vision of that Overlord. The pylon is so important in the warp and reinforcement area to be able to actually keep the push going. We saw Stardust had to defend his pylon very diligently on Belshear to be able to keep bringing in those sentries. Jaedong immediately going to send Zerglings to take that out.
Yeah, and inside the main base, Jaedong's setting an Overlord. He's seen an extra gateway. If he goes up there, you can see the rest of him, but I'm pretty sure he knows something's going on. 2 spine crawlers are being made. Aggressive units are being made, or should I say defensive units in this case. Jaedong needs to defend this.
He has managed to protect his pylon, Stardust being, and this is going to allow him to continue this force. Now, as far as the units that he has, there's a lot of Stalkers. The Zerglings, though, don't have Speed Apollo. It wasn't researched yet, and that's going to allow him to do so much extra damage to this. But we do not actually see that huge number of sentries with this force, so he's going for more mobile tactics, relying a little bit more on brute force rather than positioning.
Spine crawler cancelled here. I don't know why. I think Jaedong's just going to sacrifice this base here. This is going to go down. This is going to be very, very difficult for Jaedong to hold on to. Roaches are popping. Zerglings are coming. Is he going to be able to make the defense possible?
Well, you know, he doesn't have too many Zealots. He is now warping in another wave of them. These slow Zerglings, it's really difficult for them to get into a position where they can surround. So it's going to come purely down to how many roaches he can produce to actually just overpower this. But Stardust, with so many warp gates to continue just piling these units in wave after wave, is going to chew through a lot of these links until that speed finishes. Jaedong just needs to buy time. He is doing a lot of damage with these roaches to the Stalkers, but he's not producing any workers. And we also see that if Stardust doesn't do a credible amount of damage with this, he could be vulnerable to a counterattack himself.
Jaedong's making the hold, but these Stalkers and Dallas do have a +1 attack, which makes them do a little bit more damage to this. Is Stardust going to keep this going? Jaedong, is he making the hold here? Was that cancel of a spine crawler saying, I don't need 2 spine crawlers to defend this? Who are you? And Jaedong continues with this. The hatchery's alive. 18 Zerglings are on the way. Stardust is running out of steam here.
He is going to go for another big warp in, trying to press through this ramp. That spine crawler adding in so much DPS. And now Jaedong, 16 Zerglings, 3 more roaches on the way. This next wave of reinforcements, he could try to swing them around, get a surround on this Protoss army. Another important thing to note, there's no Mothership Core here. He doesn't have that ability to just recall out of the fight. He has to take the fight or die, and he's going to go for it. The Zealots running up. There's so many roaches, though. Jaedong continuing to shove this force farther back away from his third.
He is making the defense at the moment with more and more units streaming across. Stardust is struggling to reach over 70 supply, the number that we see directly bottom of the screen. And without that increasing and Jaedong being at 85 here, he's just continuing. He's making workers. He's making 7, 9, 11 drones. Jaedong says, this was easy. I defended it. What are you going to do to me next?
And, you know, I feel like the choice for Stardust to not go for that force field heavy play has really made it difficult for him to actually win that positional battle. He took the fake gas, but that means he can really only make Zealots. Behind this, like I said, Jaedong going double evolution chamber. He's really going to amp up those upgrades, and we see a robotics facility coming in for Stardust. He's going to be able to use this to get a couple of mortals out, of course, to deal with the roaches. They're very powerful versus them. The big problem, though, given this early aggression, since Jaedong has managed to get that third base, he's getting a Hydralisk Den. Stardust, he's not in an easy position to get that third. It's so extended, it's so far away. Walling that off, nay, impossible after the huge investment that he's made to attack Jaedong.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in game number 1, Jaedong tried something aggressive. It didn't work, and he fell behind in the game economically and with upgrades. It's kind of a vice versa situation now. Stardust attempted to bring Jaedong down early. It didn't work. So now, Jaedong has 1-1 upgrades on the way. He's increased his tech all the way up to a Hydralisk Den, and now we're seeing Hydralisk come in. Hydralisks are the best Zerg units against gateway units, which is pretty much all we see from Stardust at this point. Zealots, Stalkers, Sentries with a Mothership Core in the air, and now Immortals being thrown in. Jaedong, all he needs to do is make a massive army, and no matter what happens, Stardust has 2 choices at this point. Stardust either A, goes for another attack, or B, tries to take an expansion and defend it. Both of those come to one conclusion for Jaedong. Make an army, defend number A, defend the attack, or B, go and kill his expansion. Jaedong's just going to make a massive army and go for it.
And the really important thing to consider in this situation is that Jaedong's had this third base for so long. Not losing that economy means making that army, it's not like it's a big investment for him. But if Stardust wants to produce units to defend, that's going to cut into this expansion. And especially with the creep now being spread over his third base, he has to wait for this to go away. He has to kill the Overlord, let the creep dissipate, and this is going to lean a little bit closer to him going for this attack. He is pushing out of his natural, Apollo.
Yeah, so it looks like Stardust is going to go for an attack here. He doesn't have that too many probes behind supporting his economy. He's got a very large army. It'll be almost a waste not to go for an attack here. He's well overbuilt the defense, especially when he goes up here and says, oh, I can't take an expansion. There's creep on the floor. That's going to take ages to reside. I feel he will go for an attack. Either way, Jaedong is up to 171 supply compared to 116. That's up to 182 now. And he's continuing to add on units. And now his 1-1 upgrades have completed. Jaedong will go for an attack. No matter what happens, he is coming for you.
And this is going to be, a little bit more supplemented by the fact that he is getting the speed upgrade for the Hydralisk, which makes him move so much faster off of creep. It allows him to get into a very nice position when engaging versus these force fields. The Infestation Pit is coming up, though. Jaedong's not looking to end this game right now. He still has the later stages in mind. And with these Immortals and Sentries advancing on this army, he needs to be a little bit careful about where he takes an engagement. He does have some units on the left side, can try to bait out the force fields, or at least get a bit of a sandwich set up. He does have a lot of Zerglings, though, going for a counterattack towards where that third base would potentially be.
Yeah, he thinks it may be there, but in reality it's not. As we see this attack is coming in, Jaedong's now realized that there's no third base. He realizes an attack is coming, so 3 spine crawlers have been made on his third base. He's going to look to try to defend this off. If Jaedong defends this attack from Stardust, which is so weak, it's down to 150 supply compared to 200, Jaedong will tie this series up.
Yes, and he's managing to at least try to clear out some of these creep tumors, giving himself a little bit of this edge. Actually, he doesn't have an observer to do that, so this means Jaedong has full vision of his army. The Mothership Core gets taken out, the Time Warp gonna pretty much completely useless, maybe slowing down a couple of these roaches. Jaedong actually giving up a few of them to those force fields, and Stardust is gonna get a little bit here, but I'm not sure that's gonna be quite enough. 98 army supply to 126 for Jaedong. He is, however, finishing up that +2 armor. He does have the +2 attack, so Stardust in this next fight will have an upgrade advantage.
Look at this strategical decision from Jaedong. Spine crawls on the high ground. They're actually going to attack down into these units, and Jaedong's going to go with them. And he's got a lot of Hydras here. Temur about to pop. Jaedong is going to have 2-2 shortly. A couple of roaches do get trapped, so we are seeing Stardust kind of whittle down this Zerg army. He's still hovering around the 150 supply, pushing up to 160 actually, so he is becoming more powerful as time goes on. He does have 2-2 upgrades versus Jaedong's 1-1, an advantage that will carry over into any fight he takes. But Jaedong is narrowly closing in on 2-2 upgrades of his own.
And the problem here now for Stardust is without that third base, his main slowly but surely running out of resources. Yep. You take new bases so that you can accumulate more minerals, but his main base is going to mine out, so he's been mining it for so long. We're almost 20 minutes into this game, just past the 18-minute mark, and Jaedong with the third base, with the extra money, he can throw down lots of spine crawlers. He can invest his extra resources into static defense. That makes holding this push even easier. And now we see Vipers coming in. The Burrow upgrade. 2-2 is complete for Jaedong, and with this many spine crawlers, I'm not sure if Stardust is going to be able to push into this base in about a minute or two.
Yeah, Stardust is looking for an opportunity here, and I think it's going to arise. The fight may happen here. Hydra is spitting their damage over the force field, doing so much damage here to this army, and we're seeing Stardust drop down to 130 supply. Jaedong maintains that high-end supply count, maximum being 200 supply. He's always near the maximum here, and with Spine Crawlers finishing up, this is almost impossible. Now we're seeing Vipers coming in. What they're doing is building their energy up from the hive inside the main base. What they're going to aim to do is grab the powerful units, which are the Immortals. He's going to pull them into his army, and he's going to just weaken Stardust's army. Here we go. He's going to grab the Immortals. 1 gets pulled in. 2 gets pulled in. 3 gets pulled in. And now Stardust's army sinking in value.
The most powerful units in Stardust's army are gone. He's going to push in, but there's all this static defense. So many Hydralisks, a great concave for the Zerg player. He's going to overpower this Protoss army, and Jaedong is looking to tie this series up 1-1. Ladies and gentlemen, he is going to win this fight decisively. GG!